The game of life is long indeed. The choice to make it or break it is yours indeed. So go out there and make it now as we bring you our very special, neatest, coolest, hippest ideation ideas of cool startup special in Bangalore. Main hu Niba Jain. Welcome to Z Business and welcome to another riveting episode, Cool Startup Special on The Big Idea. Abhishek, great to have you on our special Cool Startup Special in Bangalore, and great especially because you're a fellow Gujarati.
Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful to meet you. I'm most excited. Okay, Abhishek, I have to ask you this question first. There is nothing sexy about office supplies. You know, you would think it to be just a regular mundane situation, but it's a frickin' 25 billion industry. So share with us what it's all about and how it came into your life.
Yeah, I think I'll start by saying I agree. A lot of people say that why office supplies, it's not sexy, and our background was in hotels, which was perceived as being
glamorous,
more glamorous.
Exciting, yes.
And I think when you cut every business down to its basic concepts, they're all the same, and the glamour is seen from outside and not from inside.
Right.
For us, the idea was what was exciting. It didn't. I think a lot of people enter businesses because of the perceived glamour and then later realize it wasn't for them.
And it's a flop show and you lose money, etc., etc.
Absolutely.
You're right.
So for us, it wasn't, we weren't looking for something glamorous. We wanted to fulfill a need and see an opportunity, and we saw a fairly large opportunity here. So I think the glamour comes... the glamour comes
when
from...
you're laughing to the bank, right?
Exactly. So I think that was... The idea was what essentially grew from looking at fulfilling a need.
Okay.
My brother and I were looking at this whole startup industry in Bangalore maybe about 6-7 years ago, when names like Flipkart and Myntra, people barely knew.
Snapdeal didn't know. You said it.
So,
great ones.
I think at that time we said that this is something exciting, but we didn't really have an idea. But So we were one of the few ones who worked backwards and said we want to be in that industry, but we don't know the idea yet.
That's very interesting. Share that, Abhishek. So you at that time just decided that there is this idea of doing startup ventures, but it was neither cool, sexy or happening at that time. But you knew you wanted to get into that space.
Yeah, I think not so much even a startup, more we were very specific about e-commerce. So we said that we didn't want to do an app or SAS, AS. We said, look, e-commerce is going to be big in India because the demographics were all pointing very favorably there. So we said, let's look at something here, but not something that someone's already doing. So we very quickly ruled out, obviously, the Flipkart type ideas, because by then they were fairly large.
Yes.
So we were still working full-time for our hotel business at the time. So
this was just a passion.
Yeah, so we decided that let's take one day of the week out, and we won't sit in our office. We'll sit in the boardroom and just brainstorm, and let's come up with a list and see what works.
But you're so young, Abhishek, so you were just ambitious. Like you've just always been ambitious.
I think like you mentioned in the beginning, Gujarati people are raised from a very young age to always look at the business opportunity in something, even if it's tiny. So I think
you're right.
And we were at a stage with the hotels where it was being run quite professionally by people, other people. So it didn't really require my brother and I to spend the whole day with it.
You're honest. And how many do you have in the Zoffio banner?
In India, we have 3 hotels, which is in Bangalore, Goa, and in Kumarkom, all 5-star hotels. And we have one in Mombasa in Kenya, and one in Liverpool in UK. So because they were all being run by professionals, we said that if you're really going to use your education or your entrepreneurship, we should do something.
And your Gujarati business blood.
Exactly, we should do something from scratch. And I think we brainstormed, came up with lots of ideas, some of which we didn't do, which I now see are doing extremely well.
So can you share that? Is it possible, some of the ideas you had when you were putting the plan together? So that's really interesting.
My favorite one that we were very close to deciding on but never did, and they're doing amazingly well now, was a very similar concept to Practal. So we had even had a name at the time, and it was Dr. Saab or something like that.
Wow,
And
Abhishek, interesting.
So I think we said that medical and energy and education, all these sectors are going to do well. So
hottest sectors of the future.
and then the office supplies thing happened purely by chance because it was one of our shortlisted ideas, and we said, let's see how Zuri's procuring their office supplies.
Oh, so that's how it ended up
That was what the
translating.
final push was.
I don't
Because
believe it. Very interesting.
we felt that, okay, this is a semi-large company, so I'm sure they have some professional vendors, and let's see how it works. And then what we found shocked us, because we were dealing with 6 or 7 vendors because one person didn't have all the products.
Okay.
It was handwritten invoices, there were lots of fake goods.
Yeah, it's a mom-pop situation.
Exactly. So we couldn't even tell if the price we were paying was a good price.
Unbelievable.
And
So that is what cinched it. That was the defining moment.
That, and also when
Okay,
we started doing the research on it, we realized that in a more advanced market like US,
yes.
after Amazon, the second largest
Staples.
e-commerce company was Staples.
Yes, yes.
So we said that no one is doing it in India.
don't believe
There's a problem with it. There wasn't even an organized offline store. It was
It's
just
mom and pops, exactly.
mom and pops and nothing else.
I don't believe
So we said that this is really
This
where
is it. We
where
gotta jump on
should,
that bandwagon.
And that's exactly how it
So
started.
that's how actually Zoffio started.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean, that's just too fascinating. I do want to ask you how the name came about, because that's really, really stylish. But we have to take a little break.
Absolutely.
Folks, break time. Please don't go away. In conversations with Abhishek in Bangalore on our very special. Back again in conversations with Abhishek, the founder of Zoffio. So how did the name come about, Abhishek? It's very...
Again, I think our Zuri background, we found the letter Z quite lucky, and we were
Definitely lucky, right?
yeah. So we were just messing around with a couple names, and eventually, actually, we were talking about anagrams. So it was Zoffio. Actually, stands for, very few people know this, even in the company. Stands for Zuri Office India Online.
I don't believe.
And that was just, we were just literally messing around.
So it's not in Italian.
No,
or,
no. Zuri had a story like that, but the reason we did this was then we started discussing it internally, and we didn't have another name, so we were just referring to it as Zoffio until we found the final name. And I think in the space of 2 weeks we got so used to it, and it sort of stuck with us. We said,
let's go for it.
Let's go for it. The unglamorous part about the name is that we needed a .com, not a .in. So we wanted to, we explored with making it shorter and easier to say, Zoff, but
it just worked.
It just worked. So I think it was...
And it's brought luck to you?
I hope so, yeah. It's still too early to say, but I think so.
It's a nascent startup.
Yeah, the journey's been great. So that's the lucky bit. I think you get to do something that you enjoy doing.
Enjoy doing that you're passionate about. Okay, what about funding? How has that been for you to start Zoffio? Was it your family background, which is a little more unique than the other startups that we have actually?
Yeah, I suppose it's unique in that sense because we were very lucky that we just needed to get the idea and convince the senior directors that this is something that could work. So there was that, from that aspect it was relatively easy, and we're still bootstrapped by the Zuri group. I think where the difference is we still have to be very responsible as directors, and it's not as simple as saying I need some money. You have to still handle it very professionally, as if you're asking
that's a very different dimension,
an external person for money. And I think that just maintains discipline, that you know you're always on the right track, because you still have to on a quarterly or a a biannual basis convince other people that what you're doing is worth their money.
Exactly, their money. Okay, now share with us A to Z back-end supplies of Zoffio. Where all, who all, how does it work?
So we have an inventory-led model. The reason for that is office supplies can only be serviced in that way. You have a lot of marketplace models, which basically means that you'll get some supplies from somewhere, some from another vendor, and that's exactly the problem that was happening offline in any case. So going online to a marketplace to procure office supplies wasn't really solving the problem for a company who wanted everything in one place. So that's the primary reason that we're still an inventory-led vertical e-commerce company, where we stock all our products
Yeah.
that we sell.
And we're going to be able to see that warehouse. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
absolutely.
going to be showing our viewers.
Now, in office supplies, again, we don't need to stock 1 million products because 90% of companies order the same 90% of products.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
we're able to maintain
It's a bit of a
li-
no-brainer there.
Yeah, so we have a relatively low inventory model
Okay.
where we only stock our fastest moving items. And for the less fast moving items, we already have vendor tie-ups with close to 60 to 70 vendors back end.
It's fantastic.
So in case
3
someone
years.
does need that, we don't have to then go and look for it and negotiate a price on it.
Okay.
We just have already tied up with them but not stocked it.
Okay.
So it's a
And you
ve-
take a cut. So the revenue stream is such that you take a cut.
yeah,
from
it's a margin
revenues,
business. We don't do commissions.
Okay.
We procure at a certain price and sell it at a certain price.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Who are your buyers? How have you been able to grow so rapidly in terms of your buyers?
So our target market, like I said, is very large in India because apart from the multinationals and listed companies, they were being serviced by the unorganized sector.
Exactly.
So we have 3 specific sectors which we target. The first is large corporates, which are typically companies who have revenues of above 20 crores a year.
Okay.
Our second segment, which is probably our most ambitious segment and most exciting segment, is the SME business in India.
Yes,
So
that's
these
really
are
growing
the companies.
rapidly,
Yeah, these are the companies that have
Yeah.
barely used technology,
Correct.
never get the best service because they're just used to dealing with substandard
Interesting.
dealers. So that is the large market, and then the final market is the retail or small owners or
yes.
homeowners.
Okay.
School children
Yeah.
who have a requirement for stationery but not necessarily for their business.
Okay.
It could be electronics, it could be pens, it could be things like that. So that is the third market. So we operate in the B2B, large corporate,
Of course.
SME and the
Yeah.
retail
You've covered
sector.
every market. so
Yeah, the
to
only
speak, yeah.
market we're not actively targeting is obviously the multinationals because their procurement processes are very complex. So
interesting,
currently, I don't think India is ready to take those processes online.
Okay. That's interesting.
In the future, perhaps, I
The
think
sky's
it's
the limit, I
happening
guess.
in America in a big way.
Okay. So we hope
but-
to have that translated to
Yeah, I think it's very
Yes.
nascent for
Okay.
India. In fact, B2B is just
Okay.
becoming a term people are getting
Yeah.
familiar with.
Yeah, back again.
I
But
think-
full on.
Yeah, I think B2B e-commerce is where B2C e-commerce was 7 years ago, and that's exactly what has happened in the more
Yes.
mature markets like
Correct.
US.
Correct.
And once it does take over because of the purchasing size of companies, the value of B2B e-commerce dwarfs
Yeah.
B2C e-commerce. So I think today if you said that to someone in India that one day B2B commerce in India will dwarf your Flipkarts and Snapdeals, they'd say that's unbelievable, that's not possible.
Preposterous, yeah. But look at it.
But
it
if
is
you look in
happening.
mature markets,
Yes.
it is happening. You have the
Yeah.
Staples and Grangers
Yeah, yeah.
of
They're
the
all
US
there.
that are
Yes,
doing really
yes,
well.
yes.
And I'm actually very glad to say that a lot of companies apart from Zoffio have done well in this sector.
Yeah, I must ask you that. We do have to take a little break, but I want to ask you who your competition is. Yeah. Folks, break time. Please don't. Again, in conversations with the young founder of Zoffio, Abhishek. So tell us, Abhishek, who are your competitors in the Zoffio?
So our direct competitors
yeah.
online is Staples.
Okay.
They recently launched in India. With
So has that been a negative in terms
No,
of...
I think a lot of people actually asked us that way before they
Yeah.
even launched. Amazon
Okay.
Business has some
Yeah.
sort of a business model.
Okay.
But for us, it sounds funny for us to say it, but we were sort of waiting a while for them to turn up because what this industry currently needs desperately is visibility.
More organized.
No, just the visibility. One player is not enough to capture this
To
entire...
lure, I guess, to lure somebody
Absolutely.
to
I think
want
a good
to-
example
okay.
is what happened with Uber and Ola. Before Uber turned up,
Interesting.
very few
Yeah.
people even knew that the most efficient way to get a
Yeah.
taxi was through the use of an app.
Very true.
But
you're
when
right.
Uber turned up and lent the
All
necessary
of a sudden,
visibility,
that's a great
everyone all of a
example,
sudden
Abhishek.
decided. So the market
Yeah.
size grows when you have well-known established
Yes,
players.
players, yeah.
So we are very confident that at least 3 or
Okay.
4 players are
Yeah.
required in India
Yeah.
just to target
Become
the
more
Indian-
level playing field
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
build the buzz.
Yeah, so we'd rather be a player in a market of 4 good players than the only person in a very small
Okay,
market.
small, yeah.
So-
Unorganized sector. as
Yeah,
it
and I
is,
think
yeah.
we have already started to see that with
Okay.
companies like Staples and
Okay.
Amazon
Yeah.
Business has started advertising their
Okay.
office supplies. So many companies now start saying, oh, I should maybe look at buying my office supplies online.
Okay. Where do you see Zoffio in the next 5 to 10 years?
So our growth plans are quite ambitious, and we very firmly believe in the potential of the market. So without being too specific, I would expect us to be in the top 5 B2B e-commerce companies in India in the next 5 years. What that means in monetary terms, I'm not exactly, I can't predict that. But I would definitely expect us to be amongst the leaders in this space.
Okay, great. I want to ask you your advice as a young entrepreneur, somebody who was from a very established business, very well educated, you decided to become an entrepreneur. What's it been like, and what advice can you give?
So I think, well, the first thing is that it's not as glamorous as it's cut out to be.
No, it's tough.
So I think a lot of the times you end up seeing the success stories like the Flipkarts and your Snapdeals and you have the your rooms and you read these fabulous numbers and this guy's so young. But I think the journey a lot of them have gone through before that, where all the hard work was done, I think largely gets ignored. So I think the first thing to say is that don't enter it because of the numbers you see. I think everyone assumed that they'll be the next $100 million funded company, and that was one in 1,000 or maybe 50,000 companies in India. So it's not as
and you don't hear about those 50,000 who are
absolutely. I think you don't have shows which cover people who've
unfortunately
who failed.
Well, you're very honest, exactly.
So I think the important thing is that really know what you're getting into.
I like that.
And don't get into it because everyone else is. Like, especially with IIT-IIMs, they have so many class batchmates who have made it big or who have started a startup, and they say, let's start. And then I think you start to face the problems of funding, and maybe your idea is not good enough, maybe your team is not good enough. So a lot of things have to go right for it to be a success. And I'm saying that honestly about myself as well, that we're a very young company, and there's no guarantee that you're a success 10 years down the line because things change so quickly.
Especially in a country like India.
Especially in a country like India. So I think, but then once you do get involved, give it your all. I think it's such a cliche.
No, but I mean, it's the God's honest truth. Give 3 pointers that would help a budding entrepreneur.
I think one is, a lot of the times entrepreneurs are very hesitant to share their idea because they're very protective about it in the beginning, like it's your own child. I think that is the first step to get over, and share it with as many people as you can, because there are people out there who have more experience than you.
Fantastic. Nobody's ever told me that.
And who can give you really good advice.
And number 2?
I think linked to that is hire people who know more than you. So my brother and I didn't know anything about e-commerce or office supplies. So it would have been impossible for us to try and start a business on the 2 most important aspects of our business, which we didn't
without getting the back.
But again, in India, there's so many talented people who will be able to save you months of learning purely because of the experience they bring to the table.
And the third?
The third one, I suppose, is enjoy it, because it's a very stressful journey. There's ups and downs, much more than you would have in a job. So I think you have to, all that worrying, you have to sort of try and learn to not worry too much, and something always works out.
Wow, Abhishek, wonderful, young, vibrant, handsome. May you reach the top.
Thank you very much.
We wish you all the best of luck. Great to have had you on our very special Cool Startup series in Bangalore.
Thank you very much.
All the best to you and the Zoffio team.
Thank you.
Thank you.